Hey guys, this is Eric here with Mallory. How you doing, Mal?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. I can't believe it's 2017 already.
Yeah, I was. I. It is amazing. It's also interesting how it fell on a weekend. So it's like by the time many people that had yesterday and today off of work, it's like the year's already 2 days over, and you haven't even. You're showing up for work on Tuesday. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Also, might have made it a little bit challenging for people that made New Year's resolutions. They might start tomorrow instead of yesterday.
Yeah, totally. It's funny because I'm doing a no sweets challenge. Well, basically, it's a fasting and prayer thing that I'm doing for 2 weeks, and I chose no sweets because I'm pregnant and I can't really give up too much food besides like stuff that's not really good for me anyway.
Right, right,
So I
right.
decided to do no sweets, and I was like, we were at the grocery store a little bit today, and I have a ghost behind me, and
Right.
Ryan was like, "Oh, let's get ice cream." I'm like, "Let's not get ice cream." But it's kind of funny what that like your priorities just shift sometimes in the new year.
I think one of the interesting things about doing what you're describing is that it's not so much that you give that stuff up forever or that not doing it for 3 weeks is going to make you not want to have those things. What it does, it makes you pay attention every time that you think about doing it so that even when it's over, you can still have those things, but it's always a conscious thought instead of just, oh, you're not even thinking about it. And then you're halfway through an ice cream or something like that.
Yeah, like you have 6 cookies and you don't really realize it during the holidays, and you're like, "Oh, I probably should not eat this many cookies."
Yeah, me and my brother talk about that a lot. Is that you got to make sure that if you have something like that, that you enjoy it, that you paid attention to it. It's something you wanted. It tasted good, so that you can kind of hang on to that while you're being more healthy. But anyway, thanks everyone for joining us here on this New Year's Day observed. I'm excited for the new year, and I'm excited for some of the things that we're doing with our group. I'm excited about the book that we decided to do for this month. I have not received it yet. I ordered it. Yeah, I don't know. You guys don't have it yet, right?
No,
I
I'll
still,
probably get it tomorrow.
I actually still have to order it, so
All
I
right.
I have been a little bit lazy with that, but
Oh,
it'll get taken
right.
care of.
So let me see if I can just find it here. So the book we actually picked for this month was Design Your Life: How to Build a Well-Lived, Joyful Life. And one of the cool things about it is that it's actually a book that is taught at Stanford University. So I know we have Josh here who his main goal is to get himself a position at a prestigious college, and he wants to be the director of student activities at the college and work his way up to do so. And one of the cool things about a book like that is it brings a great topic and then also has it come from the academic angle to things. And what we were talking about, me and Josh, last week was that what's cool about that is I'm sure the book has very good structure to it and good exercises and all that stuff, because if you're going to teach something as a class and then turn it into a book, there obviously has to be actionable stuff. Otherwise, how could you do it as a class if there's nothing you could kind of do as homework? So I thought for tonight's call that what we would do is we would kind of talk about, all of us leaders on this call, for those of you who just are watching here, we have the background in sales and personal development and going to seminars and programs and different stuff like that. So the beginning of each month, what our group does usually on our first call, because many of the times we each haven't got the book that we picked for this month, and it's kind of turned into a thing where it's actually kind of beneficial, because if you have 4 calls in the month all about the same book, if someone's watching or participating, it might feel like we're not really talking about too many different things. So one of the ways that we can kind of at least implement the book and talk about it, but also talk about different angles about the book, is that we kind of take the topic of the book and kind of think about if there wasn't a book, but that's the topic we want to talk about, what are some things that we would think of if we were kind of directing that? And what that does is it gives all of us on the call, plus all of you watching, kind of a framework to think about, like, okay, well, if I had to design my life and to be a well-lived life and a purpose-driven life, what are some of the concepts that I'd come up with? And then you can kind of compare it to what's taught in the book and say, oh, am I on track? Am I off track? Are there some ideas that I can add to what I came up with, so that individually and as a group, we kind of come up with those ideas of what it really means to design your own life. So, life the way you want it. Did you have something, Josh?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a good way too to apply the book to your actual life. Like, it's a good way to actually take some of the information from the book and use it. So
absolutely. So I'll share a couple ideas, and then I'll obviously have Josh and Mallory participate as well. I think that from all the stuff I've learned from different programs and different events I've been to and things like that, a well-driven, purpose-driven life and designing the life the way you want actually comes down to your values. What do you value? What's important to you? And make sure that whatever you're doing fits in with that. Kind of a quick side story. If you guys, we talk about this concept all the time because many people teach it, including one of my mentors, Tony Robbins, the whole concept of whatever you focus on, you'll start to see. And as you start to see it, you'll start to see it more. So the whole concept is, hey, look around the room and find everything that you could see in the room that you're in right now that is red. And then whoever's running the actual, the actual event would say, okay, close your eyes and then tell me everything that you saw that was green. And you say, well, wait a second. You asked me to find red. You didn't ask me to find green. So it shows you that whatever you focus on, you'll find. And then at the end of the exercise, you'll do a similar thing, look for red. And then whoever's running it would say, tell me everything you saw that was red. And then the person would ask and say, well, how many of you kind of lied and said maroon was red and orange was red and whatever to make yourself feel more successful? And everybody raises their hand. And the point is, whatever you focus on, you'll either find stuff that actually truly is that, or you'll kind of manipulate things to make it go along with what you're focusing on and what you believe. So the point of that is that I actually read an entire book today, a short book. I had it on my Kindle. And it told a story that I had actually seen as a video on Facebook and in another book all in the last 2 weeks, which is kind of the whole concept. It was actually, I think the original idea was taught in the classroom, which is the teacher takes a mason jar and they put a bunch of big rocks in it. And they fill it to the top and they ask the class, is this full? And they said, well, and they say, well, yeah, it's full. And then they pour some more, then they take it out and then they pour all kinds of something smaller, like little marbles into it, and they fill it all the way to the top and they say, is this full? And they say, well, yeah. Then they pick another mason jar and they fill it all with sand all the way to the top, and then they say, is it full? And the rest says, the people say it is full. So the point of it is, most of us spend most of our life filling our mason jar with sand or marbles, which is small stuff that really might be fun, might be interesting, might make us feel good in the moment, but really isn't important. But we said, regardless of whether you put in sand, marble, or rocks, it was full. But the rocks are the big things that you value, and the sand is just random stuff that doesn't even matter to you, other than, like we were talking about a few minutes ago, eating a bunch of cookies or, doing drugs or some sort of something that's instant gratification that might be fun in the moment, but is not something that actually benefits you in the long run. And the point of the exercise, again, is if you build your life with the big rocks, there won't be room for any of the other little crap that you approach your family life And then you fill in the little spaces with little fun little things to do. Yeah, I'll go to the movies. Things that you do once in a while, but it's not something that you value on a consistent basis that can kind of get you thrown off track a little bit. So that's where I would kind of start with talking about designing your life, is with your values. Do either of you guys have any big pillars when you would think about what you would focus on to design your life the way you want it?
Well, I think what you shared about when you focus on something, that's what you tend to notice more in your life. And it can go, like when you were talking about a room and looking for the red, and you say, oh, that's maroon, but that's close enough, that's red, or that's orange, but that's close enough, so that's red. An example in life is, I mean, if you're, say you want to lose weight and you feel like you're out of shape, or maybe you don't even want to lose weight, you just want to get in shape so you have more energy. If you start to focus on that, you start to focus on food that you put into your body. You start to focus on how much water you drink in a day, and you start to you say, oh, well, I had let's see, I had 3 servings of vegetables today. So, and then I had like 1 cookie, but the vegetables cancel that out. So you start to put a focus on that kind of stuff. It can also be, if you have a mindset that tends to go towards the negative, you can sometimes spend too much time focusing on things that maybe could be positive if you look at them in a different way, but because you have a negative mindset, you might see something that somebody else sees as a positive as a negative. But I think one of the biggest things that I am excited about from this Designing Your Life book is he's going to teach about simple mindsets and how to apply them to your life. And I think sometimes we just overthink things as humans, especially, I mean, I'm definitely prone to do this. I just tend to overthink something way beyond what it should be. And that's from taking action. One example that I actually did the other day was I was going to redo my bathroom closet because it just seems like there's so much wasted space. It's a pretty big closet, but it has just like small short shelves in the back, and then the bottom is pretty open, and then there's all this wasted space. And I was like thinking probably for hours of what I could do to actually make the space more usable. And then I was like, wait a second. I've already redone 2 other closets in my house, and it took me probably about 6 hours total to do those, because I took everything out. I painted the inside, I redid the shelving units and all that stuff. And the 2 hours that I spent thinking about my bathroom closet could have been spent emptying it out, taking the shelves out that are in there now. And it's just like, if you focus too much on the planning and thinking about what you want to do, sometimes that can take away from actually taking action, just diving in and learning as you go.
Yeah, I was obviously those are really great points, but I was going to mention a lot about just the fact that to me, like, values are really important in terms of just designing your life. And as Eric was saying about the like having the big rocks in your life and then the little pebbles to fill it in. I think what's most important is that whenever you're trying to design your ideal life, you want to just make sure that as often as possible you put things in your life that are meaningful to you or very important to you. So, like, for instance, I like going to concerts, so I'll occasionally put in concerts into my schedule every couple of months, and it helps fill in some of those little spaces around looking for jobs and basically preparing to be a professional in higher education and doing all the Cutco work that I do and the work at the hotel that I do. So you as much as possible, you want to try to fill that in with things that either you love or that are really helpful to somebody that you know or something like that. You become fulfilled in life just through doing normal life.
Absolutely, because if you can get joy out of today, no matter what you're doing, then you're going to get joy out of the big things that happen in your life. But when it's the other way, you don't even get joy out of the big accomplishments, then you definitely aren't going to enjoy today either. I think one of the concepts I've thought about recently, especially just having the unique experience of, I mean, other people have had this experience, but I worked for a family business. And then I worked in sales, and then was kind of like worked for the same company as a franchise owner. And then I was running my own business, and then I was an affiliate for a network marketing company, and then went back to, being an employee and having a side business, all the different ways of looking at stuff. And that's just one part of your life, your career. Is I think one of the things that people miss is, I know, Josh, for example, you have your dream job of being a director of student activities in higher education. I think that's a fantastic goal. I think that one of the things that we all have to keep in mind, though, is that we always want to pay attention to what about it we want versus the actual title or specifically what you're doing. And the reason is if you look at a lot of if you look at a lot of people that are, say, famous people that are actors or actresses or athletes or whatever, it's that it seems like that, a lot of them are successful, but if you talk to people that coach people like that, many of them aren't very happy. And it's not just because they make money and everyone, is trying to get their attention or whatever. I think what it has to do is that they paid more attention to designing their career instead of designing their life, and not consciously. And I know it's tough because many of them at very young age are, in acting or they're, into their professional sports career, but actually thinking about, hey, what are the consequences of going down this path? And can I do it? And what are the sacrifices? And, what am I giving up for doing this? And if you think about it, I don't think a lot of people in that avenue do it. And I'll give you two examples of people who are pretty famous that I think have a good head on their shoulders and, have been successful in their primary relationship and in their professional life. One is Lou Holtz, who is the coach of Notre Dame football for many years. He's a keynote speaker now. He used to be on College Game Day and stuff on ESPN. And the reason he was successful was because although he was a college football coach, which is a very tough job, especially if you're at one of the top schools like Notre Dame, and your schedule is very tough because you're the coach. You have to go do recruiting. You have to, you have to plan out the games. You have to go to the games, coach the games. It's a 365 day a year job, even though there's only 10 football games, 12 football games. But the thing is, he had a wife that knew what they wanted to accomplish, and they designed their life knowing that this was important to both of them, but they had also had other things that are important to them, family. They also knew that if you're a coach, hey, you could get fired and we might be living somewhere else someday. And they set up their values first and were able to make their career fit into that, instead of just saying, this is the thing that's going to make me most successful and famous, and then just hoping that everything else kind of works out. And the other one is also a coach, and that's Tony Dungy, who coached Peyton Manning with the Indianapolis Colts, and now he does the pregame for Sunday night football. And he's another one. Him and his wife are very spiritual, very religious, and they're also very focused on, if I'm going to do something, I have to know what the consequences are and be consciously ready to do it. And I think that's one of the reasons he also retired from actual coaching at a fairly young age, when he probably could have kept coaching, but now he just does the Sunday night show. So those are just couple examples, because again, I think people, a lot of times when they think of design your life, they think about, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a movie star, I want to be this, that, and the other thing. And if I don't become that, then I wasn't worth it, or, there's something wrong with me or whatever. Instead of thinking about what do I value and how can I design my entire life? And if there's something in one particular area that I want to do, I can do that, but only if it fits in the greater framework of what I'm doing. Or if it doesn't, there's a specific plan where it's like, well, like someone going to medical school or something. Medical school is nuts, but if you really want to be a doctor, you got to hunker down for these years. But there's an end to it, and after that, you and your spouse or whoever you're with or whatever know that you can design your life. But it's all about conscious design of your life rather than reacting. And that's where a lot of these people, their relationships fall apart, they turn to drugs and all this stuff. Of course, there's other reasons, but a lot of it comes into there was some part of life they wanted and they actually achieved it, but they're missing the whole big picture.
To that, it just reminds me so much of the book we read, Lead Without a Title, because, you know, when you put so much focus on the thing that you actually do, you can get caught up a lot in, you know, the busyness of it, instead of focusing on your personal values and thinking back to, okay, why did I start doing this in the first place? And it's funny because when we go after a big goal like a career or something like that, a lot of times what we picture in our head of what it will be like when we actually are in that role or in that position, we get there and it's like, wait a second, this isn't at all what I pictured myself, you know, what my life being like. But it's better. Sometimes, a lot of times it's better, because especially when you put the right focus on it, like you're talking about putting the focus on your values and just making sure that whatever you're doing aligns with those values in a way to give you some sort of fulfillment every single day.
Absolutely. I'll give you another example, and I might have shared this with both Mallory and Josh before, but I don't know anyone that's watching has heard this before. There's a woman that I follow. Her name is Chalene Johnson, and she actually is the #1 grossing female workout DVD person of all time. She actually a lot of her stuff are actually products that are sold in Beachbody, the network marketing company. But she doesn't really do that as much anymore. She has her own information products business where she teaches a course called Smart Success. And she also teaches a few other courses about Instagram and different social media. So a few years ago, and she actually teaches this as part of her keynote speech when she goes to other people's events to actually enroll people in her course. And what she talks about is, she said, a couple years ago, I got a call from one of the really famous daytime TV shows, you know, like The View or one of those type of shows. And they wanted her to come on and be one of the people on the show. So at first she was like, oh my God, this would be awesome and all this stuff. And then she went and talked to her husband, and her husband was like, I don't think you want to do this. And she's like, why? So then they sat down and kind of wrote out the pros and cons, and they figured out that one of their biggest values in all of life was their family, and that they still wanted to work hard, but they had set up this life, and they actually teach a course called Smart Success. And her going and doing the daytime TV show did not fit into anything that they were teaching, because the point was, you know, they run an online digital business, and what they do is they work when their kids are in school, and they literally kick they're very successful. So they have a lot of assistants and people on staff or whatever, and they work out of their house because it's a home-based business. But they literally, no one's allowed in their house when the kids are there. So the kids have to be off to school, and the second the kids are coming back from school, everyone gets kicked out of the house. Like even if the person is a friend of theirs, but they're there for a business purpose, they kick that person out of the house. And because they value family, and if they want to do any more work, it has to be outside of scheduled family time later on in the day. And she goes, I was so tempted by it too, because I'm already famous and successful and I make money. But if you're on a daytime TV show on national TV, the sky's the limit with how much money you can make, the notoriety, the products you could have. So it would do a lot of stuff. But that's an everyday job. That's a being up at 5 a.m, driving into town. That's moving, you know, to wherever the studio is that they shoot these shows. And none of it aligned with what she was doing. So she actually decided to do something that wouldn't make her, if she would have done it, it would have made her more successful and more famous in the eyes of everybody else. But in the long run, it wouldn't have made her feel more successful in her own eyes, because it didn't align with what her husband, and their family had decided is important to them. So that's just an example of designing your life. And because they had a plan in place and they already knew what their goals were, see, that's what truly successful people, and I keep using the word success, but more fulfilled people, is when opportunities get thrown at them, they compare it to their values instead of comparing it to what society would say would be better for them to do or promote their brand or do whatever. And then it's an easy choice. So, you know, she thought about it for a little bit and then she said, turned it down. But after that, there was no question. When you don't have your values aligned and you say, oh, you know, I'm not sure, and then you say no, you'll keep thinking about it because you're not sure. But if you're crystal clear on what your values are and opportunities come up, it's a very easy yes or no once you think it all the way through, and then you don't have to overthink it. So I know that's one specific example, but I've ever since I heard her speak at an event and tell that story, I just thought that that was very profound, that, you know, most people just kind of blow in the wind with whatever's going to make them successful, but that's not necessarily aligned with what's important to them.
I think it's important too to remember that, you know, what I liked when you said most successful people, but then you changed it and said most fulfilled people, because we all have a different definition of success. For some people, success means making a boatload of money, but then the things that they sacrifice, maybe like time with their family or getting to, you know, travel or, you know, whatever the case is. But if you can find something that, yeah, maybe it's not going to be as monetarily successful as somebody else, but you're happier because it's aligning with something that you value and it goes along with what your definition of success is, that's going to make your life all the more happy every day and you'll be more fulfilled. And I think the whole designing your life concept, I think it's so important to remember what's going to fulfill me, what's going to make me feel alive every day, instead of just, you know, what's success by the book, because doesn't work like that. Everyone's definition is different for success.
Yeah, it's funny. I have an interview coming up this week with the college is called John Jay College. It's kind of this. It's a college in New York that's basically, it's part of their public school system down there, and it's actually a pretty big college, and it seems like a lot of the people there are of minorities and all that sort of stuff. And obviously it'd be great, you know, it might be a great experience for me to work down there, but as I'm looking at it more and more, I'm not convinced totally that it's going to be the right fit for me. And so even though I've been working super hard at finding a job these past who knows how many months, I do really feel like if I don't have the right experience to go down there and be successful with their job, I know it's not going to work out very well for me. And then I might have some other sort of issue, like I might not be able to retain the job. I may have to go elsewhere and try to, you know, find something. And so, you know, obviously I'm going to go through the interview process, but, you know, I want to make sure that, you know, even though I might be in kind of a tough situation, and I know that, you know, something like this could really bring me a lot closer to potentially what I would like to do, I also know that it might not get me there, just based on the type of college that it is. So.
Yeah, Josh, that's a really good point, is that sometimes there's something that we really want and we don't get it for a long period of time, and then something that kind of looks like it comes along and we jump at it without kind of thinking it through. So I think what you're doing is awesome, is you know, you're going through the whole process, and, you know, they would have to offer you a job anyway for there to even be a decision. But if you get to that point, then you kind of think it through versus just saying, oh yeah, I'll do it. And I think that that's a great approach. You know, you know, I'm very happy with what I'm doing for work right now. I enjoy our group. So there's a lot of good things going on, but if I ever get a call from a recruiter for like a job placement, I always take the call and ask them what it is that they're offering. And the reason I do it is because, you know, think about this. That's a person that's basically working for you for free to help find you your dream job. And if they don't place you in your dream job, it doesn't cost you any money, and you basically have this assistant looking for you. Now, what I would want to be able to move from what I'm doing now to something else, probably 99.9999999 is pretty much impossible, because I'm not sure if I was even the employer, I would want someone who wants all the things that I say I want, between salary and vacation time and flexibility and different things like that. But if the person came and found something like that, I'd be glad that they brought that to my attention if that was possible. and they're not really wasting my time because they're only bringing something that would be prominent to me. And I haven't got one of those calls in a long time, but I just find it so interesting how people don't even look into things when going through the process literally has no effect on them whatsoever. And all they're doing by saying no right away is not making a decision based without having all the information. So I think that's really cool what you're doing, Josh. And I think that, it shows a lot of guts, and it shows a lot of, intuition in yourself to know that there's a chance I could end up being offered this job. And even though it'll be the first one I've been offered in this process, I might have to go and say, I'm going to pass. And, it's a tough decision because it's in reality, having a job versus not having a job at a school might feel like it's closer to what you want, but based on what you're describing about the connection and, where it is and the demographics and your personality and, what they do and what you do doesn't seem to be a good fit. I've found that, and I'm sure you guys have too, people that trust their intuition can always look back and see that they've made the right choice. So I think that's really cool. And as we try to relate everything back that we're talking today to designing your life, I think that's one of the biggest things is plan out your values, like what each of us have been talking about, and then trust your intuition when you make decisions, but as long as you have your values in line. If you don't, sometimes your intuition might tell you to do something for the reasons we've been talking about before, because it'll make you seem more successful or doing whatever. But if you're crystal clear on what's important to you, then that intuition you get will align very closely with those values that you have. So, I think it's an exciting book to start with. A lot of talks about tools, simple mindsets. I talked about how it's great as a structured type of academic, not just book, but a course. And I think that Josh and I touched on this last week, that one of the problems is that, a lot of people set those New Year's resolutions or the goals for the new year, and you hear the ball drop. And it actually is a cool thing to do because you can mentally say that was 2016 and this is 2017. But if you don't have a group like this in some way, shape, or form, a coach, a team, if you're part of a sales company, a network marketing team, or an accountability group, what happens is you set those goals and then life happens. I mean, me and Mallory were joking before we even started this that one of the problems is that this year was that New Year's was on a weekend, a long weekend. So you set that New Year's resolution, but you don't go back to a normal day till tomorrow. So you have 2 days of vegging out and hanging out, and the gym opened late, and whatever. Many people might say they start tomorrow, but the whole point is if you don't have things to help reinforce it, and I think starting the year with a book like this, hey, we picked some goals, and now we're actually seeing how do those goals fit in, and how can we learn more concepts of designing your life and relaying them back to the goals that we have. I think that's a powerful way for all of us in this group. And if you guys on here decided to join us, definitely reach out to myself or one of the other leaders. We'd love to have you be part of the group. If you got goals that you set for the new year and you say, I know I'm not going to follow through with the people I have around me, but if I could be reading a book, going to masterminds, being on these calls each week, I know I'll be able to follow through with an accountability group like that. We definitely love to have you. So for sure. Mal, did you have something you were going to say a while back?
Well, it's funny, right when I unmuted, you started talking about it.
Oh.
It was just about, with the new year and having, this is such a great book to read for the new year, because a lot of times what I think, in past years, what I've struggled with personally with New Year's resolutions is making too many. Like I want to try and fix too many things in my life at once. And I think, taking it week by week with this type of group and reading a book like this is going to be so powerful in getting a chance to, shift part of my life at a time into the way that I see myself living in the future. So, and living in the now, because there is no real past or future. There's only now. So, but I think I'm really excited about this book for the new year for sure.
Cool. Awesome. So, I think we've talked about the whole concept of values. And I think that being a part of a group like this, we all have slightly different values, but we all value a lot of the same things, which I think is which is cool. You know, family, you know, friendship, personal development, just having a good time with life. I think that's one of the cool things about being around people like this. You know, one of the things that we touched on last week a little bit was that you got to make sure that, like Josh talks about, scheduling those concerts every couple months. You got to make sure that you schedule things that will fill you up, because sometimes maybe if you focus on your career a little bit, maybe the day-to-day, even if it's your dream job, you know, just at the time isn't exciting, or you do love it, but it's just a lot of work, or there's so much going on. Doing those little things that fill you up, whether it's concerts or sporting events or having all your friends over to, you know, play board games or something like that. You know, it's funny. We all get kind of addicted to the TV, you know, from time to time. And, you know, recently, starting at Christmas, we played I guess it's not a board game, but it's a game. I think it's called Left, Right, Center. We played that game, and it was just the most fun time ever. And it just reminds you that it's like, well, what do people do before the TV? It's like, well, they talk to each other and they had fun. So we've actually been doing that this week. We've been playing Left, Right, Center. There's this other game with like dice. You roll the dice as fast as you can, as many times as you can. You got to get them all to be the same number, and the first person to do it wins. This is other game we're playing, but it just shows you, you know, the power of what happens when you stop and pay attention to what you're doing and make sure you're doing things that are important to you. You know, I actually set a goal today that this year I want to read 52 books, and I've done that before. But one of the reasons I want to do it is not to say, hey, oh, I did it, or I'm going to implement every single thing from those 52 books. The reason I want to do it is that I just paid attention to what I've done these 2 days and realized that I actually think watching TV can be a good thing if it's entertaining, or it's something that's funny, or something that's valuable to you, or you're learning something. But if you're someone who gets up early and really focuses, there's a lot of time in your day, especially when you have days off. And it's funny, the past 2 days, I've watched a ton of TV, but I've also exercised 3 times and read 2 full books and did a bunch of other stuff. So the 52 book goal for me is just something that I know I can do, but it makes me be conscious enough to say, what am I doing with the rest of my time? And because of that, I think that I'll do a better job of saying, oh, if I'm going to spend all this time watching this or doing something that's more passive, then it's something that I'm choosing to do that, not like unconscious eating. You're also not unconscious watching TV over and over and over. So it's not something everybody has to do. I know we have our group with the once a month, which is a really good pace for what we're doing. But you know, I like to read a lot, and you know, I got so many books for Christmas, so I just thought it would be something cool to do, and it won't be the ones that we do each month. Those will be the ones I'll really focus on implementing stuff. The other ones I read are more different perspectives, reinforcement at a faster rate of the ideas that we've all learned, just from a slightly different perspective. So for me, I thought that was something to do, and you know, kind of hold me accountable, especially with this time of year where, you know, I thought about what I've done these 2 days, and I'm like, well, it's like, well, you know, what else could you know, you're inside, it's dark out or whatever. So I just don't want to get in that mode of just spending too much time watching TV, because I would say of all the vices and things that people get addicted to, that for me, that's probably the worst one, because I don't drink or smoke or you know, I don't really overeat or any of that stuff. But I will say, when it gets into February, March, and people aren't really going outside, I can catch myself, you know, binging on a TV show here and there or something like that. And watching TV is great, especially if you're with other people, but it's not really my values to be doing that for an entire day and do nothing productive. So since I enjoy reading, it's something that's one of my values of learning. I just thought it'd be a cool goal to set. So, you know, everybody doesn't have to do that, but I think reflecting on how you spend your time and what are those things that are important to you, and scheduling stuff so that you do put yourself in a spot before you go into a bad habit that you actually pause. I think that would be pretty cool. Anybody else?
I mean, I'm just excited. This year, Eric and I were talking a little bit about, it's not really a New Year's resolution, but it might turn into one, as I'm giving up sweets for the next 2 weeks, doing a fast for 2 weeks. It's a fast and prayer thing. I don't know what you call it. We're fasting and praying for 2 whole weeks through church. And it's going to be really exciting because I'm pregnant and I'm not going to be able to really give up like a ton of food, because some people are doing where they just eat homemade vegetable soup every day, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and drink a ton of water. And I don't think that would be something that I would be willing to do, just because I need a few more nutrients in my system than just that. I need fruit, dang it. So so I'm just going to give up sweets. And I actually was just talking to somebody the other day, and they said that I could give up something like social media for 2 weeks. And that would definitely be a challenge, because I find myself, on Facebook and Snapchat all the time, at work. If I'm, not doing anything for a second, I flip through Facebook real quick or something, which I could just delete those apps from my phone. And who knows, maybe it will be a huge breakthrough for me, and I find myself doing different things, being more productive at work, whatever the case is. But I think with a New Year's resolution, I think it's so important to just take it day by day, because if I think about the next 365 days giving up sweets, I would probably have a meltdown, because I really love cookies and ice cream. But if I just think about, okay, for 2 weeks, and I'm doing it with other people, so I have an accountability system, which is so fantastic. I think that's going to be something that I can accomplish, and it might lead to more. So it's cool. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, regardless of what your goal is, or an example of me with talking about the TV, or Mallory, with the fast that you're doing, it's just creating that conscious thinking of everything that you do. Is this something I really want to do? Is this something I can cut back on? Or, am I just going through the motions? It's interesting. I think technology is very helpful, especially you think about like this call we're doing right now. Without technology, we wouldn't be doing it. So it's very helpful. The downside of technology is it's always there and it never goes away. And, I've talked to people about this before. 2 of the most fun times that I've had in the last bunch of years, and yes, they were both on vacations, and obviously vacations are fun, but is I won an incentive trip with the company that Josh and Mallory and I first met at, Cutco, and I won a trip to Jamaica, and there was no cell service in Jamaica. And for 4 days, it was like, you want to hang out? You told someone where to meet at what time, and whoever, like we wanted to play basketball, and it was like, all right, meet at the court at 2. If you're not there, you're not there. You weren't worried where they were. It was just, you're coming to play or you're not. And when we went to Italy, except for one hotel that was a just brand new, open, modern Hilton resort, they had Wi-Fi, but everywhere else didn't have internet. And those 2 trips to me were the most peaceful things ever. And it was just like reminding yourself that you don't have to have those things all the time, and that if you can completely shut off for 4 days or a week or something, it can really recharge your batteries. And how this relates to what we're talking about is part of designing your life is making sure you're making a conscious choice of everything that you're doing, and having a group like this, or Mallory's group like she's talking about, something that allows you to stop and say, am I doing this because it's just what everybody does, or is this something that's really important to me? I think that's the biggest value. We're not trying to make you believe what we believe or do what we do. We're just trying to make you take a step back and look and say, is this stuff important to me? And I know for me, being in this group, being a part of the sales company that all of us were a part of before, all the skills that we've learned and all the ways we looked at things, I couldn't imagine not having something like that continuously through my life, because, I talk to people and I tell them that I don't drink, I don't smoke, there's no candy in my house, I don't drink soda. And they're like, you don't like any of that stuff? And it's like, no, I love that stuff. It tastes fantastic. Like, what, are you kidding me? But for me, I want to be conscious about it. If I'm going to have something to eat, it's going to be at a party somewhere else and not in my cabinet that I can grab every 5 seconds. If I want, a cake or well, I don't drink soda at all, but if I wanted a soda or something like that, and if that stuff was around me, I would eat it all. I'm not like this person who's better than anybody else or has more willpower than anyone else. That's not it at all. You create an environment that reinforces it. And what a group like this does is it creates an environment for you to be able to pursue and maintain and focus on the things that are important to you, because your environment itself might be tough to follow through on that stuff. So if that really connects with you, definitely reach out to me or the other leaders in our group. We'd love to have you join us, and we're doing some big things in 2017, and we'd love to have you on board. So that's what I have for tonight. Going to go spend a little bit more time with my family to finish out this holiday weekend and get back to work tomorrow. So anything else, anyone?
Besides live the movie, we don't really have
Live
anything
the
else.
movie.
Yeah, live the movie, guys.
All right.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Have a great week, guys. We'll see you next time.
Yep.
Bye.
See you next time.